At 7:26 on the morning of November 1st, 1943, Sergeant Robert Allen Owens crouched behind a low sand dune on Cape Torquina, Bougainville, and watched a Japanese 75mm cannon tear another Marine landing craft apart. It was the fourth craft destroyed in 20 minutes. Owens was 23 years old. He had spent 21 months training for war. He had never been in combat. This was his first day under fire. The Japanese gun sat 50 yards up the beach, hidden inside a bunker built from coconut logs nearly 2 feet thick. Camouflaged with palm fronds and beach vegetation, it was invisible from the sea. The crew manning it worked with calm efficiency. They had already destroyed 4 landing craft, damaged 10 more, and pinned down 7,500 U.S. Marines in the shallow water of Empress Augusta Bay. The Marines could not advance. They could not retreat. An entire amphibious operation was being stopped by one gun. Robert Allen Owens had never imagined combat would look like this. He was born in Greenville, South Carolina, on September 13, 1920. He finished 2 years of high school, then spent 5 years working in the textile mills of Spartanburg. When Pearl Harbor changed everything, Owens didn't wait to be drafted. On February 10, 1942, he walked into a Marine Corps recruiting office and enlisted. He had never fired a rifle in battle. Training consumed nearly 2 years. Paris Island for boot camp. Advanced infantry training at New River, North Carolina. His unit, Company A, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, shipped out in September 1942. First American Samoa, then New Zealand, then Guadalcanal for final combat preparation. The 3rd Marine Division was being built for one purpose. Bougainville. Cape Torquina was the key. From there, the Marines could build airstrips within range of Rabaul, the largest Japanese naval base in the South Pacific, and isolate it without a costly direct assault. Major General Alan Turnage commanded 14,000 Marines for the landing. The plan was simple. Land at 7:26. Secure the beachhead. Build airfields. Strangle Rabaul. Intelligence reported light resistance, perhaps 300 Japanese defenders in the Cape Torquina area. That assumption died 6 minutes after the first landing craft hit the beach. The Japanese opened fire at 7:32. The 75mm Type 41 mountain gun had survived a 90-minute naval bombardment without being detected. Destroyers never saw it. Aircraft never saw it. The bunker absorbed shell fragments and concussion without collapsing. Marine rifle squads tried to suppress the position with small arms fire. Bullets bounced off coconut logs. Grenade teams crawled forward and threw explosives onto the roof. The grenades detonated harmlessly. The gun continued firing, 8 rounds per minute. Each shell was high explosive. Each one could sink a landing craft. Each one could kill a dozen men in the water. By 8 o'clock, the landing was frozen. Transports held position 3 miles offshore. Landing craft circled helplessly in the bay. Battalion commanders radioed for naval gunfire, but the destroyers could not fire without hitting Marines already ashore. The Japanese gun crew kept loading, kept firing. The barrel never stopped moving. Owens lay in the sand 70 yards away, watching. He studied the bunker, counted the rhythm. 8 rounds per minute, 12 seconds between shots, 5 seconds to reload. The crew worked with mechanical precision. He watched more landing craft take damage. Watched Marines drag wounded men up the beach. Watched the operation grind to a halt. No one could get close enough to assault the position. Then Owens made a decision. He turned to the Marines near him and called for 4 volunteers. He needed men to suppress the 2 adjacent bunkers while he attacked the gun position head-on. 4 Marines stepped forward. Owens placed them in covering positions and explained the plan. Someone had to enter that bunker. Someone had to stop that gun. Rifles had failed. Grenades had failed. The only option left was a frontal charge into the mouth of a firing cannon. 70 yards of open volcanic sand. No cover. No concealment. The Japanese crew would see him immediately. Inside the bunker were 150 high-explosive shells, stacked and ready. Owens checked his rifle, fixed his bayonet. He waited for the gun to fire. The barrel recoiled. 5 seconds to reload. Owens broke from cover and ran. The black sand pounded under his boots as he sprinted toward the bunker. Behind him, the 4 Marines opened fire on the adjacent positions, keeping Japanese heads down and buying seconds. At 50 yards, the gun crew spotted him. The barrel began traversing. They were abandoning their firing rhythm, trying to track one running Marine. At 40 yards, Owens angled right. The barrel followed. At 30 yards, he saw the breech close. They had him ranged. At this distance, the shell didn't need to hit him. The blast radius would do the work. At 25 yards, Owens cut left hard. The gun lagged. The crew was hand-cranking traverse now, struggling to match his speed. The gun fired. The shell detonated 15 feet to his right. The concussion knocked Owens sideways. Shrapnel tore past his head. He kept running. At 20 yards, the crew was reloading again. Metal clanged inside the bunker. At 15 yards, Owens fixed his eyes on the firing port. An opening 18 inches wide, 24 inches tall. The gun barrel filled most of it. At 10 yards, another shell slid home. The breech closed. At 5 yards, the barrel swung back toward him. At 3 yards, Owens saw the gunner's face. Young, wide-eyed, hands cranking desperately. The gun fired. The muzzled blast hit him like a wall. Flash and sound overwhelmed him. The shell passed so close he felt the air tear around his body. It detonated behind him. Owens was already at the bunker. The crew was reloading again. They still had 149 shells. Owens dove for the firing port. The space was tight. The coconut logs pressed in from all sides. The gun barrel burned his leg as he forced himself against it. Inside, Japanese voices shouted urgently. They knew he was there. They could stop trying to traverse. They could fire the gun inside the bunker. The backblast would kill everyone. Owens' 4 Marines were still firing outside, but they could not help him now. This was individual combat. 1 Marine, 4 or 5 Japanese soldiers. Total darkness. A loaded cannon. Owens grabbed the edge of the firing port and pulled. His shoulders wedged against the logs. The barrel pressed into his chest. He didn't know if he would fit, didn't know what waited inside, but he knew the gun had to be silenced. He pulled harder. His head and shoulders disappeared into the bunker. The coconut log frame scraped Owens's back. He was stuck, halfway through the firing port, exposed, wedged in an opening never meant for a human body. His legs were still outside. His shoulders were inside. And somewhere in the darkness 3 feet away, he could hear Japanese voices moving toward him. Bayonets scraped against wood. Owens twisted sideways. The movement bought him 2 inches, barely enough. He shoved his rifle through first, then forced his right shoulder after it. The logs tore his uniform, ripped skin from his back. The gun barrel burned through his trouser leg as he pressed against it. He pushed harder. His torso slid inside. His hips caught. For a moment, he was trapped, 3/4 inside the bunker, 3/4 exposed to whatever waited in the dark. Then his legs came free. Owens dropped onto the bunker floor. His eyes adjusted quickly. The bunker was 12 feet wide, 8 feet deep. Coconut logs formed the walls and roof. The floor was packed earth, darkened by spilled powder and grime. The 75mm gun sat abandoned at the firing port, its breech closed, a shell chambered. 5 Japanese soldiers stood between him and the rear exit. They were not charging. They were backing away, bayonets and entrenching tools in their hands, eyes locked on the opening behind them. They were retreating. These men were artillery crew, loaders, handlers, technicians. They were trained to fire a gun, not fight hand-to-hand in darkness. The nearest soldier was 6 feet away, barely older than Owens, bayonet held low. His eyes flicked past Owens, toward escape. Then the crew broke. All 5 turned and ran. They scrambled through the rear opening, a 3-foot-wide gap leading into the trench system behind the bunker, and disappeared. Owens was alone. Alone with the gun. Alone with 148 high-explosive shells stacked neatly against the wall. The cannon was still operational, still loaded, still perfectly aimed at the beach. Owens moved to the rear opening and looked out. The trench stretched 30 yards toward a secondary position. He could see the gun crew running, heading for another bunker. They weren't surrendering. They were regrouping. And Owens understood the problem immediately. Capturing the gun was not enough. The crew was still alive, still armed, still capable of coming back or manning another weapon. Outside, the beach was still under fire. The 2 adjacent bunkers, likely Type 92 heavy machine guns, were still active. They couldn't sink landing craft like the 75mm, but they could slaughter Marines in the water and keep the beach pinned. The landing was still stalled. Owens turned back to the cannon. The gun was perfectly positioned. Perfect angles. Perfect field of fire. This bunker had been engineered, range cards prepared, targets registered. This was no improvised defense. He checked the mechanism. Clean. Maintained. Professional. The gun crew knew exactly what they were doing. And now they were 30 yards away, probably already planning how to retake it. Movement in the trench. Owens dropped low. 3 Japanese soldiers appeared at the far end, not the gun crew. Different men. Infantry moving forward, checking positions. Standard procedure. They would discover the bunker was taken. They would organize a counterattack. The reality was brutal. Owens was alone in a position designed for 5 men. He had 1 rifle, about 60 rounds, and a handful of grenades. The Japanese had the trench system. Multiple positions. Dozens of soldiers. They knew every turn, every firing angle. Owens had stopped the gun, but he had not secured it. Voices echoed closer now. 6 distinct voices. Maybe more. If he left the bunker to chase the gun crew, the trench soldiers would retake it behind him. If he stayed, they would surround the bunker and wait him out. His 4 covering Marines had stopped firing, either pinned or repositioning. The adjacent bunkers still fired steadily. The defensive plan was still working. Owens looked again at the cannon, then at the trench. Stopping the gun wasn't enough. It had to stay stopped. He fixed his bayonet and moved into the trench. The passage was 4 feet wide, walls of packed earth reinforced with palm logs. The roof was open, vulnerable to grenades, but the trench zigzagged sharply every 10 feet. No straight lines. No clear throws. Professional construction. Owens moved fast, kept low. 20 yards ahead, he heard running footsteps. The gun crew. They had stopped fleeing. They were setting an ambush. Owens pulled a grenade, yanked the pin, counted 2 seconds, and threw it around the bend. The explosion slammed through the trench. Earth and debris blasted back. Owens charged through the smoke. 3 Japanese soldiers lay down. 2 dead, 1 wounded, crawling toward a rifle. Owens fired once. The man stopped moving. Behind him, boots pounded. The 6 soldiers from earlier were running now. Owens turned back. 30 feet ahead, the trench bent right. The first Japanese soldier came around the corner, rifle raised. Owens fired. The man fell. A second appeared. Owens fired again, missed. The soldier dropped low, crawling forward, using his fallen comrade as cover. Owens backed up, fired twice more. The bullet tore through the man's shoulder. He kept crawling. 2 more soldiers appeared, grenades in hand. Owens saw the throwing motion. He dove left into a small alcove cut into the trench wall. The grenades exploded where he'd been standing. The blast hammered his ears. Dirt rained down. Owens came out firing. 1 soldier went down. The others pulled back, regrouping. Owens checked his ammunition. 18 rounds left. Maybe 4 grenades. And the Japanese had the entire trench system. Movement to his left. A side tunnel. A soldier stepped out, pistol raised. A Type 14 Nambu cracked. The round struck the wall 6 inches from Owens's head. Owens spun and fired, missed. The soldier ducked back. Owens threw a grenade into the tunnel. The blast echoed. He advanced. Empty. But now he was exposed. Japanese behind him. Japanese to the sides. And 2 members of the gun crew were still alive. A rifle cracked ahead. Pain tore across his left shoulder. A grazing hit, but enough to spin him to the ground. His rifle slipped from his hands. Another round struck the dirt inches from his face. Owens rolled, grabbed the rifle, came up in a crouch. 40 feet ahead, one of the gun crew. The man worked his bolt. Owens fired. The bullet struck him in the chest. The soldier collapsed. The man dropped. But the damage was done. Owens's shoulder was bleeding badly now. Not arterial, not instantly fatal, but serious. His left arm no longer worked the way it should. He could still hold his rifle. He could still pull the trigger. But his aim was no longer steady, and his strength was fading fast. Behind him, the voices were getting closer. The Japanese soldiers were moving again. They had heard the shots. They knew he was wounded. Their voices were no longer scattered or panicked. They were coordinated now. Owens counted 4 distinct voices, maybe 5. Orders were being passed. Positions called out. They were hunting him. Owens was alone in a trench system he didn't understand, wounded, low on ammunition, and running out of time. He forced himself forward. He had to find the last member of the gun crew, because the 75mm cannon was still loaded, still positioned, still capable of destroying landing craft. If even 1 man reached that bunker, the gun would fire again. The trench bent right. Owens followed. Blood ran down his arm, dripping from his fingers into the dirt. His vision began to blur, not from blood loss yet, but from exhaustion, adrenaline crash, and the growing certainty that he was trapped. The Japanese were 20 yards behind him now. He could hear them clearly, boots scraping dirt, controlled breathing, metal shifting against gear. They weren't rushing. They didn't need to. They would follow him. Wait for him to bleed out. Wait for his ammunition to run dry. Wait for one mistake. Owens reached another junction. 3 tunnels. Left. Right. Straight ahead. He didn't know which led out. Which led deeper. Which led to the last gun crewman. His shoulder burned. His rifle felt impossibly heavy. Instinct decided. Owens took the center tunnel. 10 yards. 20. The trench sloped upward. Light appeared ahead, daylight. An exit. He pushed forward, teeth clenched, muscles screaming. Blood soaked through his uniform. Every step felt heavier than the last. He emerged into a cleared area about 50 feet wide, scattered palm trees, shell craters, churned earth. And there, 30 yards ahead, the last member of the gun crew. The man was running hard toward another bunker, rifle slung across his back, not looking behind him. He didn't know Owens had followed. Owens raised his rifle. His left arm failed him. He braced against a palm tree, forced the sights into alignment. The target was 25 yards away, still moving. Owens squeezed the trigger. The round struck the man between the shoulder blades. He fell forward and did not move. 5 men, all accounted for. The gun crew was eliminated. Behind Owens, voices erupted from the tunnel. The Japanese soldiers reached the exit. Owens turned. 3 soldiers burst into the clearing, saw him immediately, saw their dead comrade. They spread out, advancing with discipline. Owens fired. The lead soldier dropped. The other 2 dove behind a shell crater. Owens couldn't hold this position. Not wounded, not outnumbered. He moved toward the tree line, legs heavy, vision narrowing. Blood loss was accelerating now. He had minutes of combat effectiveness left. He dropped behind a fallen palm log and checked his ammunition. 8 rifle rounds. 2 grenades. The 2 Japanese soldiers were maneuvering. 1 left, 1 right. Pin and maneuver. Owens tracked them. The soldier on the left moved too fast. Owens fired. The round hit his leg. The man collapsed, screaming. The soldier on the right opened fire. 3 rapid shots, all close. Rounds cracked past Owens's head. Owens threw his last grenade, not at the soldier, but at the tunnel exit. The blast collapsed part of the entrance. It bought him seconds. The remaining soldiers stopped firing, began circling right, trying to get behind him. Owens shifted position. His shoulder slammed against the log. Pain exploded through his chest. He nearly dropped the rifle, but forced himself to hold on. The soldier appeared 20 feet away, rifle raised. A clean shot. Owens had no cover left. The soldier fired. The round struck Owens high in the right chest. The impact threw him backward. He hit the ground hard. His rifle fell away. He couldn't breathe, couldn't move his arms. The soldier advanced, working his bolt, loading another round. Owens's hand found his pistol, a Colt M1911, 45 caliber. He hadn't needed it until now. The soldier was 10 feet away, raising his rifle, aiming for Owens's head. Owens lifted the pistol with a shaking hand. His vision was fading. He fired twice. Both rounds struck center mass. The soldier dropped. Silence. No gunfire. No voices. No movement. Owens lay on his back, staring at palm fronds above him. The sky was blue. Perfect. Cloudless. He could hear the ocean. Waves on the beach. Peaceful. Wrong. He forced himself to roll over. The beach was 300 yards away. Landing craft were coming in, dozens of them. Marines were running inland, unloading equipment. No explosions. No machine gun fire. The 75mm gun was silent. The adjacent bunkers were silent. The landing was moving forward. Owens understood. When the cannon stopped firing, his 4 covering Marines had pushed forward. The defensive line collapsed. The position fell. 1 gun had broken the landing. 1 man had stopped the gun. Owens tried to stand. His legs failed. The chest wound was fatal. He could feel it now. His lungs were filling. Strength drained from him with every breath. He was 23 years old. He had trained for 21 months. He had been in combat for 90 minutes. And he had stopped the gun that would have stopped Bougainville. Owens lay back and listened to the ocean, to the sound of 7,500 Marines coming ashore without a single round fired from the Japanese 75mm. At 1,400 hours, Corporal James Mitchell found him. Mitchell was leading a patrol through the cleared area behind the captured bunker. He saw the bodies first. 5 Japanese soldiers. Then the Marine beneath a palm tree. Uniform soaked with blood, rifle 10 feet away, pistol still in his hand. Mitchell checked for a pulse. There was none. Sergeant Robert Allen Owens had been dead approximately 4 hours. Mitchell counted the shell casings. 9 rifle rounds. 7 pistol rounds. 2 grenade pins. The ground told the story. One Marine had pursued 5 enemy soldiers through a trench system, killed all of them, and died from his wounds. Mitchell radioed battalion command. Then he found Owens's dog tags. Robert A. Owens. Sergeant. Blood type O positive. Religion, Protestant. Mitchell wrote it all down. By 1600 hours on November 1st, 1943, the 3rd Marine Division had secured a defensive perimeter 1,000 yards deep around Cape Torquena. The cost was heavy. 78 Marines killed in action, 147 wounded. Japanese losses were estimated at approximately 200 dead. The beachhead was secure. Engineers were already moving inland, surveying ground for airstrips. The landing, once on the brink of collapse, was now a success. That evening, Major General Allen H. Turnage received the casualty reports. 78 names. 78 Marines who would never return to Spartanburg, Detroit, San Francisco, or anywhere else they had once called home. Turnage read each entry carefully, name, rank, unit. When he reached Sergeant Robert A. Owens, he stopped. He asked for details. Battalion Command forwarded Corporal James Mitchell's field report. Turnage read it once. Then again, he summoned his operations officer. Maps were spread across the table. The bunker location was marked clearly. The tactical picture was laid out. The Japanese 75mm Type 41 mountain gun had dominated the entire beach. Landing craft could not approach within 300 yards. 4 craft destroyed. 10 damaged. An estimated 40 Marines killed in the water. The landing had been completely interdicted. Until 8:52. Not suppressed. Not destroyed by naval gunfire. The gun had simply gone silent. 15 minutes later, the adjacent machine gun bunker surrendered. The defensive line collapsed. By 9:30, landing craft were hitting the beach unopposed. Turnage compared the timeline with Mitchell's report. Owens charged the bunker at approximately 8:45, entered through the firing port, drove the gun crew out, pursued them through the trench system, killed all 5 crew members, died of his wounds around 1,000 hours. The gun never fired again. Turnage did the math. 14,000 Marines were scheduled to land at Cape Torquena. Roughly half were ashore when Owens made his charge. 7,000 Marines were still offshore, packed into landing craft, waiting. If the gun had continued firing, the landing would have stalled. Craft would have pulled back. The timetable would have collapsed. And Rebel mattered. The Japanese had 173 aircraft based there, reinforced specifically to strike Allied landings. Every hour of delay meant air attacks. More casualties. More ships lost. The landing had to succeed quickly. Owens bought that time. 90 minutes of combat. 1 gun silenced. 7,000 Marines landed without artillery fire. By nightfall, Cape Torquena was defensible. When Japanese airstrikes arrived on November 2nd, they found American fighters already operational. The attackers lost 40 aircraft in 3 days. Turnage wrote his recommendation that night. Navy Cross, posthumous. He detailed the bunker, the gun, the charge, the pursuit, the result. He ended with one sentence. Among the many brave acts on the beachhead of Bougainville, no other single act saved the lives of more of his comrades or contributed so greatly to the success of the landings. Every level of review agreed. The Navy Cross was approved. But the recommendation troubled General Alexander A. Vandegrift, Commandant of the Marine Corps. Vandegrift had commanded at Guadalcanal. He understood what one gun could do to a landing. He reopened the case. Requested review for the Medal of Honor. The process took 18 months. Witness statements. After-action reports. Captured Japanese documents. All confirmed the same fact. One Marine had charged a firing cannon, entered through the fire port, silenced the gun, and saved the landing. On August 12, 1945, 3 months after Germany surrendered, 1 month before Japan did, the Medal of Honor was approved. It was awarded posthumously to the family of Sergeant Robert Allen Owens. Age, 23. Occupation, textile worker. Combat experience, first day. Only day. Owens's body was recovered on November 2nd. He was buried temporarily at Cape Torquena, later reinterred at the Manila American Cemetery. Section M, Row 6, Grave 142. The airstrips at Torquena became operational on December 10, 1943, 39 days after Owens died. 3 runways were carved from jungle and volcanic soil. From Torquena, American fighters reached Rabaul in 40 minutes. Bombers followed. Fuel dumps burned. Supply ships sank. Aircraft were destroyed on the ground. By March 1944, Rabaul was neutralized. Over 100,000 Japanese troops were bypassed, isolated, and rendered irrelevant. The gun Owens silenced was recovered in December. A Type 41, 75mm mountain gun, built at Osaka Arsenal. The bunker was photographed, then bulldozed. Within 6 months, nothing remained but grid coordinates. The Navy remembered. On January 28, 1948, Bath Iron Works launched a Gearing-class destroyer. USS Robert A. Owens, DD 827. She served 25 years, Korea, Vietnam, Cold War patrols. Every sailor learned the story. The ship was decommissioned on December 19, 1973, exactly 30 years and 48 days after Owens died. Owens's family received his Medal of Honor in August 1945. His mother kept it in a display case. She told visitors what her son had done. He worked in textile mills for 5 years. Then he joined the Marines. Then he died on a beach she'd never heard of, saving men she'd never meet. The citation is precise, bureaucratic, exact. Forced to pass within disastrous range of a strongly protected, well-camouflaged Japanese 75mm regimental gun. Sergeant Owens unhesitatingly charged into the mouth of the steadily firing cannon. 78 words. 90 minutes of combat. 23 years of life. The war moved on. Bougainville, Guam, Iwo Jima. New heroes. New graves. But every Marine who landed at Cape Torquena knew the story. Someone had paid the price to open that beach. And back in Spartanburg, South Carolina, at a small textile mill, his former co-workers remembered him differently. Not as a hero, not as a legend, just Robert. A quiet kid, a good worker. Left for the Marines in 1942. Never came back. The looms kept running. The war kept taking. And Sergeant Robert Allen Owens had already been dead for 2 years when it finally ended.